You're here in Washington. You are calling for a ceasefire. The U.S. is not. What is your message today here in D.C.?
Our message is that too many civilians have already died on October 7th and since. We have now seen a level of carnage in Gaza that is unprecedented, that is unjustifiable under any pretext of self-defense. So we need to find a path out of this conflict, and therefore we think there should be a ceasefire that can allow us, first of all, to address the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza. And we're not just seeing people dying from Israeli bombs or from the fighting on the ground. We're also seeing people dying now of diseases such as cholera because of the broken down sanitary system. So we need to focus on protecting the lives of the civilians of Gaza.
The U.S. is vetoing the Security Council resolution. Does that mean they're not listening to you?
Unfortunately, we are seeing a position that sees ceasefires as somehow a dirty word, and I honestly can't understand that. Usually what we see when there's a conflict in the international scene, we are always looking for a way to end the fighting. So we're very disappointed that the Security Council hasn't been able to take a firm position on that, and we certainly disagree with the US that this resolution doesn't deserve to go through.
How will you respond to that? I mean, you're here chairing the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee with a group of foreign ministers. What will you do concretely in response to be honest, what it sounds like the U.S. not listening?
Well, I mean, we're going to continue to push this very important message that too many civilians have already died. There is no reason for more civilians to die. And more importantly, this continuing military operation and this continuing level of civilian casualties does not serve anybody's interests, including the interests of Israel or its security.
With all due respect, some officials tell me that your public calls do not match your private calls to destroy Hamas. Why the dual message?
There is no dual message. What we say in private and what we say in public is exactly the same, not just for the kingdom, but for all of the Arabs. I am very proud that what we are saying in public and private is the same. I can't say the same for some of our Western interlocutors.
Meaning what the United States says in public and private is different?
I name many, and I'm not going to. It's not the United States or any particular country. I'm just saying that some of our Western interlocutors are saying things in public that they are not saying in private.
Today, Antonio Guterres, this Secretary General of the UN, told the Security Council, quote, there is a high risk of the total collapse of the humanitarian support system in Gaza. In northern Gaza, 90% of those remaining there have spent at least one full day and night without food. 22 of 36 of Gaza's hospitals are not working. Is there will among Arab nations to step in with a humanitarian plan to help Gaza?
The situation is extremely dire, just as you described. We have already stepped up, as Arab countries and others. We have provided significant quantities of aid. This aid is being restricted from going into Gaza. This aid is being blocked and obstructed. I was struck a week or so ago when I was at the UN Security Council. The Israeli representative said, and I quote, humanitarian aid is important, but more food, water and medicine will not bring us a solution. And I'm curious, what is a solution?
Gazans tell us that they feel abandoned by the Arab world. They're angry. The war continues. Do you think you've let them down?
I think they are justifiably angry that they are suffering while the international community as a whole has let them down. You see that the established mechanisms for international security and peace have not acted. This is a failing of the entire international community. We all bear that burden.
Are you worried that the Israeli Defense Forces are waging their campaign in a way that the region could be engulfed with a kind of extremism that would prevent your vision of the future to be prevented from actually being achieved?
This is absolutely a critical concern that we have. These images of dead babies in Gaza, of collapsed buildings, just like the images of October 7th have been shocking to the Israeli public. The images since are shocking and infuriating, not just to Arabs, not just to people in our part of the world, but all over the world. It means that people are losing their trust, first of all, in the two-state solution. They're losing their trust in the argument for peace in our region, but they're also losing their trust in the international systems of security and legitimacy, and that, I think, is a danger to us all. And of course, there is the risk of extremism. There is the risk of, whether it's lone wolves or others, being driven to violence by these images and these scenes of civilian suffering.
Is there a risk that as the Gaza war goes on, as the world continues to see these scenes of sufferings, you could refuse to re-begin talks to normalize relations with Israel and everything associated with that deal?
We are convinced that the only solution is peace. And this is the strategic choice we have made in Saudi Arabia, and all of the Arabs have made. And, from 1982, when Saudi Arabia proposed the FACE initiative, to the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative, and beyond. We are committed to making peace, including supporting peace with Israel, and we will engage, and we are ready to engage with a two-state solution.
But this is a little different. This is normalizing relations with Israel, getting a security guarantee from the United States, getting civilian enrichment nuclear program from the United States, giving the Palestinians, not sure exactly what. Are you willing to restart those negotiations at some point, or at some point do those negotiations become impossible given the nature of the war?
We are focused on ending the war now, but we are also very, very interested in moving the cause of peace forward. And that has been what we were working on before, and that is something we continue. And I have to say, both in my engagements with the administration and with Congress, I hear a clear message that peace is the answer. And that will need a Palestinian element. That will need us to move irrevocably to a Palestinian state.
Does the kingdom, does the crown prince consider the possibility there could be a kind of Sadat moment of going to Israel to make the kind of peace that you're talking about?
So the priority now is let's stop the killing. And after that, hopefully, we can focus again on peace and moving forward. And peace means dignity and prosperity for the Palestinians, and a state in which they can have those, and that will allow them to live in the region along with Israel in that peace and dignity.
Are there any Arab governments willing to come into Gaza, as the U.S. is requesting, as some kind of peacekeeping arrangement after the war?
Look, we have made two things clear: that we cannot talk about the day after in Gaza without talking about Palestine as a whole. That is a unified position of the Arab world. And we have also said that we cannot talk about the day after without an end to the fighting, because we don't know what does the day after mean, what does the day after look like, what does Gaza look like.
Since October the 7th, the Houthis from Yemen have launched cruise missiles toward Israel, attacked and even hijacked a commercial vessel in the Red Sea, and have sent drones toward U.S. ships. How concerned are you by these Houthi attacks, and what messages are you delivering to the Houthis directly?
Look, we are clear that escalation is in nobody's interest, and that's the message we are sending very clearly. We hope that we can focus on ending the situation in Gaza and the conflict. The risks of this conflict continuing and this conflict escalating and spiraling are significant and real. We are committed to ending the war in Yemen, and we're committed to a permanent ceasefire that opens the door for a political process. And we're going to continue to work towards that end, and we are very fully engaged in that. And I don't think that we're going to see a significant risk to that right now.